Hello and welcome to Rise of the Data Cloud. This episode features an interview with Randy Wigginton, Director of Platform and Infrastructure Engineering at Square. Randy was an early programmer at Apple and has experience working at PayPal, eBay, Google, and Chegg. On this episode, Randy talks about what it takes to produce world-changing innovations, how to use data to fully understand your customers, insights of how to compete with tech giants, and much more. So please enjoy this interview between Randy Wigginton, Director of Platform and Infrastructure Engineering at Square, and your host, Steve Ham.
You know, when I think back, we met each other in Las Vegas just before COVID. And then I think we also saw each other in Scottsdale. Both of these
yes.
With Snowflake. And it just seems like eons ago.
Doesn't it, though?
And it was just a few months. Just, the world has just changed.
I have a friend who says that it is like March 157 or something like that.
I know. It's been an amazing thing. But, you know, one of the things I really enjoyed talking to you about when we first met was the fact that you have worked for a number of notable technology companies. Apple, eBay, PayPal, Google, all of these before Square. And you're still a young man, so I don't know how you've done this. But would you tell us a little bit about the beginning of your career? You know, what it was like to be at Apple on the ground floor.
The way I got to Apple is actually pretty interesting. I learned about programming in a summer school class, fell in love, and really wanted to have a computer of my own. There were two big problems with that. One is that computers cost a fortune and were basically the size of a refrigerator. And I was 13, and my parents were not about to buy me one. So I spent a lot of time at the library and calling area companies to learn about computers and to see if they would give me free time to work on a computer. Computer time sharing was a big thing back then. From all of this research, I learned about a little group that got together every couple of weeks up at Stanford to talk about computers and how to build your own. And that group was the Homebrew Computer Club. Intel had just released the 8080, and crazy nerds like me were figuring out how to build a home computer of their own. So I conned a slightly older friend into driving me to these Homebrew Computer Club meetings a few times. I loved the meetings. I mean, I felt like these were people that I totally understood. I was probably the youngest person there, but it was wonderful for me. But after a couple of times, my friend was like so thoroughly bored that he refused to drive me anymore. So I stood up at a meeting and asked if there was anyone that lived near Homestead High School that could give me a drive to these meetings because I was too young to have a driver's license. And this super nice guy came up to me at the break and said he just lived down the street at Villa Serra Apartments, and if I walked over there, we could carpool together. I thanked him and asked him again for his name. He says, "My name is Steve, but my friends call me Woz." So that is how I met Steve Wozniak, actually a few years before Apple even started. When Apple officially started in January 1977, I was their first programmer. I would get up about 5 in the morning, drive to the office. I work for a few hours, then drive to high school, and after school go back to the office and work several more hours. That was the greatest thing ever. I was 16 at that time. Apple grew really quickly. I worked on pretty much everything the company shipped for the first 3 to 4 years. Eventually one day, Steve Jobs came to me and asked me to work on his latest project, the Macintosh. So I joined the Macintosh team and ended up writing the word processing program MacWrite that was part of the initial Macintosh launch. That was a wild experience.
That well.
I've been very fortunate.
Yeah, well, you've been at all of these incredibly innovative companies, and at a time when they were very innovative, because some companies kind of have that big innovative burst and then they kind of settle down. But you've been there for the peaks. Are there lessons that you've observed from being in the belly of the beast in all these companies about what it takes to produce world-changing innovations?
Yeah, there's a number of critical ingredients that go into an innovation of that level. I love when companies say, when they're trying to recruit people, they say, "Oh, we're going to change the world." And it's like, That doesn't happen very often. And I've been super fortunate to be at several places that have changed the world. But of the ingredients, the first one is the original idea, which usually is really simple in retrospect. For example, when Apple started creating a home computer, lots of other companies were doing that. That wasn't the magic ingredient. What is more important is the team that implements the idea. The people are always number one. People are always your most important resource. People make the difference. For example, this is why Square has a very rigorous hiring process. You have to have the best people. That's the only way you can retain your edge, is to always have great people. Another critical component of it is just attention to detail. And this was Steve Jobs' great superpower. Every feature had to work together, which created an overall result far greater than the individual features. And at Square, we do the same thing, right? We look at every new product in terms of how it fits into our overall strategy to make sure everything works together. And one thing I've noticed is that Snowflake has a similar approach. When they introduce a new feature, it's impressive how simple and brilliant it is. One of my favorite examples of that at Snowflake is data sharing. I love it. I think it's amazing. It's a simple yet elegant idea on how to share data between users. The implementation of data sharing is supernatural and intuitive, the kind of seamless feature integration that marks a significant step forward for the industry.
Now, you started with the device that basically attaches to a computer, right? Mm-hmm. But now there are many facets of the business. If you could just kind of touch on the various dimensions of the business that you have now.
Sure. We're always growing and evolving, but always staying true to the vision of economic empowerment. So, we started, as you said, with the original Square Reader, making it for anybody to accept card payment using their phone or tablet. Today, we make our own readers. We build tools to empower businesses and individuals to participate in the economy. The first part is the sellers use Square to reach buyers online and in person and manage their businesses and access financing. That's like Square Capital. We also have Cash App, which is an amazing product growing at a ridiculous speed. And they use Cash App to spend, send, store, and invest money. They can use it to buy stocks. They can use it to buy Bitcoin, send money instantly from person to person, and that person has it available to them instantaneously. That's pretty amazing.
Oh, well, that's really cool. So, we talked about innovation, and you talked about the fact that hiring the right people is the key, because these successful Silicon Valley companies, they don't just invent one thing. They have to keep reinventing more things and reinventing themselves. So they have to have a culture of innovation. And all these add-ons that Square has done has just been building out from a central vision. So that really is a cool idea. What is your role now, and what are the most significant technology challenges that you face?
So, as always, my primary job is to support and guide the members of my group. As I mentioned earlier, great ideas are important, but the team is even more critical. People always come first at Square. I manage the infrastructure group, which supports our existing legacy data centers, as well as supporting our expansion into the cloud. We run all of our legacy services in our data center, where our main payment processing is, as well as developing new services in the cloud to take advantage of newer technologies there. My group's mission is to support all of Square, enabling the company to move fast. My group develops tools and frameworks in order to reduce time to market for everybody. My group also supports what we call the data lifecycle. We are responsible for all the databases used by all the products and all the servers. And we handle that data, getting it into Snowflake, and then we use that data to produce lots of reports.
In a previous conversation, you told me about the stresses you faced in the pre-cloud analytics world. Tell us a little bit about that and about how the data cloud changes things.
Sure. This is actually a favorite thing to talk about, because prior to Snowflake, we were running an on-premise data warehousing solution. And when we first started using that system, everything was great. It was super fast, and all of our users loved it because our data was really small and not many people were using it. But the users loved it so much that they started using it more and more. And we had more and more products pouring data into the system. Everybody thought it was such a great idea. We expanded from a few machines to a full rack to 2 full racks and so on. The thirst for more performance, more speed, more storage constantly increased. And yet our physical data center space was limited. We had to start limiting when users could use our data warehouse, as well as killing queries that ran too long. This led to users trying to rerun those queries in hope they could get an answer before it was killed. Sometimes they would, sometimes they wouldn't. This led to me having to decide which users to prioritize, which led to lots of hurt feelings and constant requests for being chosen. I mean, it was brutal for all the users. Those that were able to get their job done had to wait because the system was overloaded, and it was particularly bad for those who were not even allowed to do their job. We were just in a horrible position and how to get out of it.
When was it that you started using Snowflake, and what was the deciding factor in, deciding to use it?
Well, I mean, we started experimenting with it in 2017. We migrated off of our on-prem warehouse and started using it fully in 2018. The reason that we went to use it is, well, I had a personal reason, which is that, I was not going to be able to continue supporting what we had. The company had all these reasons. All of our analysts were just furious at not being able to get their job done. And human capital is the most expensive capital of all. We were just wasting so many people's time. So I actually convinced the company to migrate to Snowflake. The full migration took about 8 months to move from our on-prem system onto Snowflake. And now Snowflake powers all of the decision-making at Square. We have daily reports on all aspects of the business. Every product owner uses Snowflake to see how well their product and their features are performing, and they can see updates every day. I mean, it was the best decision I've made.